What's up, dev people? This is part 5 in how to build a blog with Gatsby and Tailwind, and this should be the last video in the series. I'd like to style this blog post template component. I would like to create the bio component and then get this up on Netlify. So let's go ahead and get started so we can get it all done and get it in this video. So let's go ahead and start with styling the blog post component. So a couple things that we need to do here. Not just style, but we also need to get the data in a query when we create pages. And this is a template, but it's technically considered a page, right? So we would do a page query here. So in order to do a page query, we need to bring in GraphQL from Gatsby. So import GraphQL from Gatsby. Oop, sorry, didn't mean to do that. Alright, and we want to go down here and we'll say const page query equals GraphQL backticks, and we want to do our query. So we'll start with query, and our query is going to take an argument, and that's going to be a slug. And in GraphQL, what we would do is we would say the name of what's going to be coming in is slug, and it's going to be of a type string, and the exclamation means that it cannot be null. Okay, that's maybe I'll do a GraphQL tutorial in the future, but this is basically the basics of what you're going to need and what it's going to be doing. This is going to be taking that slug argument right here and querying the data for that specific component, because we're passing this in from when we do create pages. So let's go ahead and say in here we want our site data, we want our site metadata, and we want the author. And the reason that we're going to pull that in is that's going to be for the bio component we're going to create. And then in here we want Markdown remark. And then this is that fields key that we created. And we want the slug. And then when we get the slug, we want that to be equal to whatever the slug is that we pass in. Okay? And it gets passed in from create pages. Okay, so then let's go in here and say we want the HTML, because that's going to be all the other blog post stuff that's not front matter. And then we want the front matter, and from there we want the title, the description, the date, and we also are going to want an image, but we're going to have to set that up, so I'll show you how to set that up. In order to use the featured image, we need to go into our content, our index.js, and then in our our content blog, and then each one of our posts we want to go into the index.md file, and in the front matter we're going to add another piece of data, and it's going to be called featured image, and that's going to be equal to whatever the name of the image file that is in the same directory. So this one is MacBook on desk .jpg. Save it, go in here, and what I'll do is I'll just copy this line. Smarter, not harder. This one is called MacBook Party. Go into the third one, paste it in. This one's called Glowy MacBook. Okay, and now what that's going to allow us to do is inside of our front matter query, we can say that we want to query the featured image, and then within Gatsby we're using Gatsby plugin Sharp for images, so we can say child image Sharp, and that comes default with the starter. And then we're going to use a fluid image, and then Gatsby comes with this GraphQL fragment, I believe it's called, and it's Sharp fluid. Sharp fluid. And what that's going to do is Gatsby's going to take care of everything as far as the blur and the lazy loading and all that good stuff, while using the Gatsby image component as well, which we're going to bring in. Now, in order to use this, it's going to happen the exact same way. And I'm sorry, this needs to be export const. If you don't export this, you won't get the query. So same way we did last time, we're going to go up here, and we're going to say data. We're just going to destructure it off, and we want to just see what we're getting first. So console.log data. Let's run Gatsby develop. Okay, and go to the browser. And what happened? Export const GraphQL. Did you mean to use Gatsby image Sharp fixed? What did I type? Featured image, child image Sharp, fluid, Gatsby image Sharp. What did I don't think I got that wrong. Featured image, child image Sharp, fluid, Gatsby image Sharp fluid. Let's see. Let's go here and refresh. And front matter, featured image, child image Sharp, fluid, source, query, and there it is. It's there. Strange, I'm not really sure what this is talking about here, but Gatsby image Sharp fluid does not exist. That's not. Oh, graph. Sorry. Gatsby image Sharp fluid. That's what it is. Okay. So now that should be good. Query works. Yep. This works again now. Okay, and we are console logging the data that we're getting. Let's open it up. Let's see what's in here. Markdown remark. Site. The site has site metadata. That's going to be for the bio. But then we have HTML, which is our actual post, and our front matter, which has date, description, image, and title. Alright. Cool stuff. So let's start building this page out. We're going to span the image, I guess, up at the top. So let's just start building it out. Okay, so let's get rid of this. And let's create a container. And we will say that we want it to be a div. And let's do class name. And let's say it'll be the full width, and the background will be white. And let's do 2 divs inside of here. Alright, let's do 2 of these. And this one, the bottom one, is going to be for the post itself, the HTML. The top one is going to be the header. So let's just put the HTML in first. It's a little bit easier. Put it inside of the div. Oops. And then inside of that, we'll create another div. And this is actually going to hold the content. So we want to do class name. Excuse me. And let's just use grid for this, just for the sake of showing that Tailwind can do it. So let's do grid. Say grid cols 1. We'll give it a gap of 16. So each section has a large gap in between it. We'll make the text a little bit larger. We can change any of this once we see it. Leading loose is gonna be your letter spacing, and tracking wide. I'm sorry. Leading loose is gonna be your line height, and then tracking wide is gonna be your letter spacing. Because it's a black post, we want it to look good. And then in here, we're gonna do dangerously set inner HTML, and that equals an object. So we open up curlies and then another set to put an object in there, and you do underscore underscore HTML is equal to HTML, and that HTML argument that we're passing in is going to come from our data. So let's go ahead and set that up really quick. Let's go up here. We can go to the console log. From the data, we want to destructure some things, and we want to destructure Markdown, remark, and sites. We saw that's what we were getting. From site, all we want is the author. So let's say author. Author equals site.site meta data. Make sure I spell it right. From Markdown remark, we want the front matter in the HTML. So let's say front matter and HTML equals Markdown remark. And then from the front matter, we're going to end up wanting the date, the title, and the featured image. So let's just get all these out of the way right now. Okay. And so now the HTML is HTML here. It sees it. Let's see what that looks like currently. Doesn't look like anything because it's not happy about something. What's it not happy about? Let's see. Identifier data has already been declared. Data. Oh, because this should be date. I do that all the time. I just put data instead of date. I don't know why. But okay. So let's clear this out. There is our content right there. Our image is not showing currently. We'll fix that. But we're looking pretty good. Next thing I want to do is get the header built out. So let's see, it's going to be a wrapper for the header, so that way we can have the header in the top column and the HTML on the bottom. And then inside of there, I want to do an image, and I want to put an overlay on the image. So let's do a div, and let's say class name equals, let's do relative, so that way we can have that overlay. And let's do width full, and height full. And we'll say that the min height is also full. Can't be any less. So that way it always takes up whatever space it needs. Let's also bring our image in. Our image is going to come from Gatsby image. So let's say import image from Gatsby image. And then we'll use that. We'll say image. And then that's going to take an argument of a property of fluid, and fluid is going to get featured image child image sharp, so child image sharp dot fluid. Okay, let's see what that gives us. All right, there's our image. Cool. All right, what can we do to make that better though? First, let's take the image itself, and let's do class name, and we'll say the width is full. Okay. And then we're going to add actually one custom thing here. We're going to say style, because we only want it to be a certain height. So we're going to do max height equals 400 pixels. Because there's no max height equals 400 pixels in Tailwind. This is pretty specific. And we could add it if we wanted to, but we're not going to go that far. It's one single inline style. That adds it up to the top here. Looks pretty good. Let's put our overlay in now. So div, class name. Let's say absolute. We'll say width full, height full. The background is going to be black. And the background opacity will be 50. I'm sorry, the opacity will be 50, not background opacity. Okay. See, we get nothing, and the reason is because of our z indexes. Now, it works a little funny with z index in Tailwind. But what we want to do is go to the image, and we want to say z-10. And then we want to go to the overlay and say z-20. And then we got our dark overlay. Okay, let's put our title in here as well. So this is the div for the image and the overlay. So we want to go after that one. And we want to create, but we still want to be, wait, hold on one second. Where are we? Right here, this is the image. Right, so now after the image, but inside of the same div as the image container, so this one right here, we want to add the title. So let's do a div. And this div will be absolute. And no, I'm sorry, it doesn't need to be absolute. I apologize. I don't know what I'm talking about. What do we want to do here? Let's put our content in here first. Let's do H1. And let's say class name. And let's do text 3XL. When it gets to medium, let's do text 4XL. When it's large, we'll make it into 5XL. And we'll say font medium to give it some boldness and a margin bottom of 1. And then we'll put the title in here. Let's see what we get. Alright, so the title is down here right now. And the reason is for that is the surrounding div, right? That div needs to live in a certain place. We want it to live in the above wrapper, right? So let's say class name, and let's give it absolute. Okay, so that moved everything else around. And then what we want to do is go to the full wrapper and say class name. And let's do flex. Let's give it a couple things. Let's say justify center. Let's say align items, so items center. We'll give it a max width. So that way it never gets too big and looks funny. A max width XL. We'll give it a margin top and padding x-axis 4. And we'll give it a margin auto on left and the right. And we'll also make everything up in the header be font rubric. And we'll say relative. So that way this will go right up to this container. Okay? Alright. So let's fix a couple things here. Move this back so the spacing is right. What else do we need to do? We need to go to this right here, and we need to adjust the Z index. Okay, so there now you can see it. And let's give it a couple more things just to make it pop a little bit. Let's say border black. Let's give it some padding. PY2. Left 4, sorry, PX4. Make the background white. And now we're going to say background opacity is 50. Alright, look at that. There we go. That's nice, huh? What happened to our, what's going on here? Let's see. Something is not correct. Is our image. This has a padding bottom. That's not what I'm looking for. Absolute full. I don't think that should be background opacity. No. Let's take a look. What's it gonna be? Oh no, okay. This is what we want. We want the border, because we added the padding so it doesn't go all the way to the edge. And then we have the title right here with a little white background so you can see it. We have the image behind it. But for some reason, this lost its Z index. Sorry about that. Z20. There we go. That looks good. I like that. All right, cool. Excuse me. Let's also add in the author's name and the date right below with the title here. So let's go down here and let's make a div. Class name, and we'll do flex, justify between, padding bottom 2, and font will be light. And in here, we'll do an H3, where we'll put the author's name. And then next to that, we'll say if there is a date, then I want to return an H3 with the date. Otherwise, I don't want anything to be there. And let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that's not bad. I would like to go to the author's name and say class name, font, medium. That's better. Okay. I think there might be just one more thing. We want this to sort of look nicer and be in the middle, have some padding. So let's go here and let's say class name. This is what's wrapping that inner HTML thing here. Let's give it some padding. Let's say width, full, max width, screen large. We want auto left right margin. Let's give it some top and bottom margin to push things away, and some padding so it doesn't hit the edge. Take a look, and we're pushed in. Very nice. We're going to have to figure out what's going on here. This might just be because we have to rebuild. I'm not sure yet. I'll take a look in a second, though. So that looks good. So now if we go back to our main page, go to our second page. Hey, look at that. I think that looks pretty nice. Alright, so last thing here is to get this image working and get the bio component built. So let's get the bio component built really quick. Go into components, right click, new file, get bio.js. And let's do our shortcut, RAFCE. We're going to be using Gatsby image, so we'll say imports img from Gatsby image. What we want here is we want to say that we're going to think for a second. We'll add some occupations to show, right? So const occupations equals, let's say, web developer and content creator. We're going to need to do a static query here to get the author's name. So let's go ahead and say import use static query, and also we're going to do GraphQL from Gatsby. Let's write out our static query, which is going to be const data equals use static query, and inside of there we say GraphQL with our backticks, and the query is going to be, we'll say bio query is what we'll name it, And what do we want? We want to grab site. We want to grab site metadata. And we want the author's name. And then we also want to query for an image. But you know what? Instead of that, let's just use this pre-made image. And instead of the Gatsby astronaut, let's use the Gatsby icon. It'll look a little bit better. So let's actually, instead of this, let's get rid of the import for IMG. And let's import image from /image. And then let's flesh it out in the JSX here. So let's get this one. I'm going to run through this one a little quick just because it's a lot of repetitive stuff. It's mostly styles. So let's say it's a wrapper and the class name is going to be, there's going to be a bunch of them. So let's do flex call. Let's say max width 2XL border gray 500 rounded and shadow. And let's also give it some padding. And then let's go in here and we'll create another div which is going to separate the image and the title, and then after that we'll have a paragraph, right? So let's say this div is for the image and the author name and the occupations, and then let's say this div is for the description, but really we don't need a div. What we'll do is we'll just put it in a paragraph. And we'll do lorem 30 just to get some lorem in there. Save it. Pretty will take care of it. In here, what we want is to have the image. And then after the image, we want to create a column for the name and the occupation. So let's create a div. And let's say h2. And inside the h2, we want data.site metadata author, and under that let's create a list, and let's say occupations map occupation, and we want to return a list item with occupation. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Well, we can't see what that looks like. We have to go to blog post. Let's go import it. So let's say import bio from components bio. And the bio is going to go right underneath the dangerously set in inner HTML. So let's say bio. And now let's take a look at what it looks like. Can't resolve Gatsby. Oh, it's going to happen to you all the time. Gatsby. And let's go to the bottom. And right now it's huge. Okay. So let's style it up a little bit. Let's go here. Let's go to the image and let's say class name. Let's do width 10 and height 10. Let's say rounded so it's the container is a circle. We'll give it a little shadow so it pops. And then we'll say flex shrink 0 so it doesn't get any smaller in that container. Let's also go to our our wrapper for our other data, and we'll say class name. Oops. This is for the author's name and the occupations. So let's style this wrapper here. And let's do flex. We'll say flex column, so it's on top and bottom. We want items start, so we want it to be all the way to the left. We'll give it some padding so it doesn't sit against the image, and then we're going to do rubric font for it. Let's see what we get. Let's refresh. For some reason, the height and width here, let's go to this image component really quick. Max width 300, fluid, okay. So in the image component here, let's just cheat a little bit and we'll say class name equals an empty string. And go here and do class name equals class name. Save it. And that'll add whatever classes that we add to this image, like we're doing here, into the image component. Okay. And close image. Go back to bio. Doing all right. Not looking too bad. Let's actually take shadow and rounded out of here. And because the Gatsby, the way that the icon works, we'll just take it out. It looks better, trust me. Let's go to the list. Let's say, what do we want to do? This wrapping div for the image and the author and the occupations. Let's say flex. Good. Let's go to the list itself of the occupations. So class name, let's say text extra small, font thin. That looks pretty good. Let's also, sorry, I had a itch on my arm there. Let's go to the author's name and let's change that a little bit. Let's say class name and let's do, we'll start off at text medium, which you don't actually have to do because it's already set to text medium. So what we'll do is we'll say medium, text large, large, text extra large, and then we'll also use font medium. There we go, a little bit bigger, it looks good. And for the list, let's say flex. All right. And then this is going to sound silly, but in this logic here, let's say, let's grab, let me think for a second. Occupation, let's cut it, and let's say occupation and I. And then where it says here occupation, we will do if occupations dot length equals I, then we want to return occupations. We want to return occupation. Otherwise, we want to return the same thing, but with a comma. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Occupations dot length minus 1. So if it's the last one, don't add the comma. You can see there's no comma right there. Perfect. Alright, not too bad. That is our bio. Let's also do no, you know what? Let's leave it at the beginning. I kind of like it right there. But I would like to go to the wrapping div and just say margin top. We'll give it like 8. There you go. Push that up. Looks good. All right, let's figure out. Well, let's call it. Let's call it there. Let's actually just figure out what's going on with this image really quick. I think that's just a rebuild. So let's do this. Let's say Gatsby develop. And we'll wait for it to refresh. Let's go to. Let me think. Yes. Okay. Let's go to our Gatsby config. This Gatsby transformer remark. We actually have to add some settings for it. So open up some curlies and say resolve Gatsby transformer remark. And let's do options, plugins, which is an array of objects. And we say resolve Gatsby remark images, and then we'll just add this so it doesn't get to be too big. We'll say max width 500. Save that. I believe we need to run Gatsby develop. Let me just double check and make sure that we have Gatsby. Okay. So really quick, let's say we need Gatsby remark images. So npm I Gatsby remark images. Once that's done, that will make transformer grab the images, and we'll be able to see them on the page. And we'll be just about there. Gatsby develop. And once this loads, we should be able to see our images. Let's go to the home page first. Take your time, it's okay. Not awkward or anything. Stop. Refresh. Alright, first blog post. And there it is. Boom. And this is what Gatsby image does. I can click on this and get a full-size image. That's so cool. But yeah, we're looking good. Everything is set up. Everything works. If you go to your Gatsby blog, we do need to go to, let's fix that. Let's go to our header.js file. And let's also say Z50, which is the highest one. And there we go. Fixed. So this goes to all our posts. We can see our post with our image. Everything loads well. What we will do is I will make one more video after this. It'll be a very short video, and it'll post right after it. It'll be on how to get this pushed up to GitHub and how to host with Netlify. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.